Well, Janez Potočnik, welcome to the forum for this year. This is our 12th forum for the future of agriculture. It is your 4th as the chair. And you opened the forum this morning by saying that you misspoke last year, that you talked about sleepwalking towards a catastrophe, and now you told us this morning, in fact, we are wide awake and we're still doing it. We have 12 years before we lose the race. This was your wake-up call at the start of this year's conference.
Indeed, we have, in the year which just passed, got the very alarming report from the International Panel for Climate Change, which is basically saying if we want to have climate change under control, which actually means staying inside the 1.5 degree, that we basically have 12 years. So 12 years, it's not a long period of a life, even of a person. What about of the whole human race? So that's why I firmly believe that one of the things which we have all understood is that there is no way not to change, but that the urgency, how quick we have to embrace the changes, it's not yet there.
The time is now, and I think no more important than the theme of this year's conference, which is about the next generation. We see, students around the world saying that, there is no planet B. Yeah. That in fact, action is important and it needs to happen now. We've been talking about this for many years at the forum, though. So, do you feel there is that sense of momentum of action, and not just what we need to do, because I think we're aware of that. The SDGs tell us that, the Paris Accord tells us that, but that how we need to do it.
In fact, we choose the theme of this FFA even before actually Greta famously spoke at the gathering of the climate change meeting, and before all those actions by the young generation started. I actually very much appreciate and like that they have given us so clear message that they simply cannot anymore stand looking and accepting us not acting firmly and not acting quick enough. It's in a way quite embarrassing that it needs to be told by adult, smart generation, by our kids.
Well, it's quite humbling. I mean, Greta Thunberg, who you referred to, is a 16-year-old Swedish girl who in fact has selective mutism, and actually said, now is the time to speak. She said, I don't understand why climate change isn't talked about everywhere, whilst we're from farmers all the way from the field to the fork to consumers. Why aren't we all talking about it and doing something all the time? It's quite humbling to hear that from a teenager.
Actually, the fact is that we are doing a lot, but in a way, the critical mass of the real change and the understanding that we need a real system change, so that we need to go deep, quick, on a level which is unprecedented, which we haven't seen actually in our life, it's somehow missing. But on the other hand, when we see the messages which are coming from the biodiversity loss, for example, the Living Planet Index is showing us that we have lost 60% of biodiversity in the last 40 years. The IPCC report is giving us 12 years to actually show that we are capable of doing that. And also the International Resource Panel report, the panel which I'm co-chairing, less than a month ago, published a report in which we were clearly showing that the use of the resources in the last 50 years more than tripled. And if we will not change anything, more than doubling it's expecting till 2060. So we have simply to be aware that all those things have consequences, and without seriously acting and embracing the change, we will simply be forced to do it.
David Attenborough said at Davos this year, if we wreck the planet, in the end we wreck ourselves. I think we're all aware about that. I know you've expressed before that sense of, if you care, you need to be at these forums, to talking about it. But also, let me ask you how optimistic you are about change, because we are seeing change. And one of the things that we are focusing on today, and certainly in this afternoon in the forum, is sustainability within consumerism, to look at waste, to look at the way we eat. You know, these things seem to be further up the agenda now, and that's important too.
That's important too. I think many statements which we have heard today are really encouraging, because we do understand that this acceptance of the fact of necessity of change, it's among people, it's among consumers, it's among producers, it's definitely in the scientific society, and that's existing. And also in the policy and political world, I see that there are major changes. For example, I have introduced on the policy agenda of European Union circular economy only 5 years ago. Now everybody is speaking about that, and it's seeing it as a necessity for the change in the economic world. And I think, yes, a lot of the things are happening. The real question is either it's happening quick enough, either it's happening broad enough, or we need more. My claim is that we need faster and more, and that sometimes the energy which we are using to get an agreement among ourselves is the lost energy, while the things out there are happening and moving quicker than we could even imagine.
Still carbon emissions keep going up, and that's the reality of it. One thing we have talked about this year as well, that seems to be a theme that's come up the agenda, is money. Putting money in at the right moments, at the right time, in the right part of this chain, this connection that we have. So sustainable finance is one of the things that we've already talked about today. You know, ideas are good, entrepreneurs are good, young farmers can be there, but the money needs to be in the right place at the right time to promote the kind of action we need.
That's the reason why we put it, sustainable financing is one of the core themes on today's agenda, because you can have good ideas, you can even agree, you can even have political will, but if you don't have the financial support, if actually the financial sector does not clearly understand that management of the risks in the bank doesn't mean management or just getting a proper return on the money which you are investing next year, but rather looking how you can actually provide the financing that we all collectively, with the help of financial system, avoid major risks which we are facing. That's the essence of the discussion which we need to deal when we talk about the financing system. And again, even that will not be enough. Also, the public financing will need to shift. And of course, the messages which are coming from the consumer generation, in particular from the young generation, which are showing us that moving in that direction makes sense and makes profit, because they are moving in that direction. I was the generation after the Second World War. So for us, being successful was owning a new, big, good car, having our own house. For the young generation, that's not anymore like that. So they were not the generation which lived in a shortage after the Second World War. And they simply need more sustainable world, they simply need more clear future, and they simply want that us who are in power currently respond to that urgently, and that we deliver them something which will be a safer world, more comfortable world, a world in which they can actually enjoy the same way of happiness as we are enjoying during our lives.
You're a farmer's son, of course, and Michel Barnier has addressed the conference today and said that the ecological debt for the next generation it's an incredibly important focus.
Yes. No, I was mentioning that, by the way, for a few years already, that while Europe has very clear rules when it comes to indebtedness of the financial system, we have no rules when it comes to indebting in the environmental area. Even more, we are, in a way, by not really valuing natural capital, we are stimulating the business sector in a way that it has higher profits if it disregards the environmental preservation, because it was simply not considered as a cost. And of course, that is a debt. That's a debt which is normally paid by the next generation. Next generation cannot vote yet. Next generation cannot complain. And that's the easier, that we pocket actually the profits and that we socialize the costs. Sometimes the costs are paid by the health system. but in many times they are unfortunately not paid by the consumers and by the producers who are enjoying the benefits of the products which we produce.
It's great to have a little bit of the voice of the new generation in our theme this year. It's important. Janez, as ever, thank you so much. Great to speak to you. Enjoy the rest of the forum today.
Thank you.